My wife cheated with her coworker. I'm a 30-year-old male who is married to a 28-year-old lady. A little over a month ago, I wrote a piece about my wife on Snapchat and how I caught her doing it. For about a month and a half, I've had suspicions that she was cheating. She is always glued to her phone. Following our most recent meeting, I compelled her to cancel her Snapchat account. In the early hours of New Year's Eve, I caught her using WhatsApp, which confirmed that she had replaced Snapchat with it. When I refused to surrender her phone, she smacked me in the face with her fist to make me stop. I uncovered evidence of a relationship with the worst of the worst via WhatsApp. There are pictures, nasty comments, and so forth. Considering that we've been married for 2.5 years and have been together for 5, we have a lot of experience, no kids. I'm aware of who she had relations with, and he's also engaged. Please let me know what you think about a tough decision that I'm facing in my heart now. Is it okay for me to call this guy's fiancée and tell her the truth? Do I remain in the same house as my wife? She is begging me to stay with her and help her out. I've heard recommendations from around 6 to 7 different people. The majority of individuals agreed that it is my way to walk, but they would take their time and seek professional counsel. I've had 2 people tell me that they'd simply call it quits. I'm not sure if trust can be reestablished with her since she appears to be locked in a cycle of wash/rinse/repeat behavior. Please be advised that there has been an update for anyone who are interested in or following this. When I got home from work, it was 9:20 p.m., and it had been around 8 hours since I told her that I wanted a divorce because I couldn't stand the thought of her lyrishness, cheating, and dishonesty anymore. When she realized I wouldn't forgive her, she lost her cool and walked out with a suitcase full of clothes, which is fine by me. She is presently trying to use our credit card and has spent more than $300 in the previous few hours at a restaurant and a bar, according to the card statement. Although it is most likely with this jerk, who knows? It was as simple as locking our card using the Chase app. Update. In the current state of affairs, I told her on Sunday, January 5, that I wanted a divorce. It was by far the most challenging conversation I'd ever had. She stormed out of the house in a rage and went out that night, attempting to use our credit card, which has a $13,000 spending limit. I locked the account so she couldn't do any more damage, and the next day I withdrew half of the money from our shared bank accounts to prevent any more damage. On Sunday, January 5th and Monday, January 6th, the following events occurred. In the early hours of Tuesday, January 7, I spoke with an attorney, and the following Tuesday, I will speak with another attorney. She is due to return home this afternoon, which will allow us to talk about money and assets, and how we would divide them, as well as our temporary living arrangements until we straighten things out. All of the people I've talked to have cautioned me from leaving the house. Currently, I'm experiencing emotional ups and downs on a regular basis. Today I'm feeling numb, almost as if I'm dreaming, and that when I awaken, none of this will be real. I'm still in pain, and I miss the person I'm married to, but I'm beginning to doubt whether or not that person really exists at all. Even on my worst days, I know I'm making the greatest decision for me and my future, but I feel so adrift, like if my life's purpose has been lost. Tough it's to put into words. I have a lot of spare time now, which I use to devote to hanging out with her and doing stuff with her. I miss her a lot. Story 2. Should I, 34 male, stay with my drug addict, lazy, cheating wife, 25 female? My wife and I have been married for just over 3 years, and we have a 3.5-year-old kid. We have been dating for about a year when we discovered she was pregnant and intended to marry once he was born. We eventually married when he was 6 months old and were overjoyed. She had an uncomplicated delivery and returned to work at a restaurant, where she had worked for 3 years previously, around 2 months afterwards. I operate a retail shop and had complete control over my schedule, so whenever she worked, I made sure I was home to care our kid. It didn't always work out, and we had to leave him off at our grandparents' house. She would usually leave work first to pick him up and would always get home on schedule. Those were the good old days. I started experiencing problems at work, was stressed out, and came home wanting to sit on my computer and play video games or watch television. I used to spend a lot of time online with a group of friends before we were married, and I tried to give that up when we had a kid. She attempted to speak to me about it, but I often had negative replies or was generally difficult to deal with. This is how I spent the better part of 6 months. We always trusted each other and used to have long discussions about being anti-drug, never cheating on each other, getting old together, and so on. As a result, I never snooped around or suspected she was up to anything. That being said, one of my first girlfriends cheated on me, so it was always a possibility in the back of my mind. She finally began phoning me and asked whether she could meet up with her buddies. She had male/female pals. I would constantly ask who she was hanging out with, and she would tell me who they were, and that was the end of it. Over time, she began to be late, missing deadlines for bringing up our kid, and sometimes phoning and asking if she could do a ladies' night movie all-nighter. Then something clicked one day. I had a hunch something weird was going on, but I never accused her. I guess the day I realized she was cheating on me was when I cooked supper and asked for her to come home. She never showed up and didn't return my calls. I became concerned, and when she phoned the following morning, she claimed that she had slept off on her friend's sofa. I went through a lot and was in a state of denial for a long time. I ultimately showed up to her place of employment after she informed me that she would be there. I was late. She wasn't. It was subsequently established that she was with the guy at the time, and I handed her my ring since I had a sneaking suspicion that things wasn't quite right. She vehemently denied any relationship with anybody else and claimed that she was stressed out as a result of her work and other circumstances. As of this point, I had stopped doing everything in my life, had lost my job, and had spent the most of my time attempting to communicate with her. She seemed to be really content in her absence from me at the time. As a result of her mother's occasional communication with her, I had the wonderful opportunity of having her help me. Her mother realized that she had become addicted to Percocet to the point that she was snorting the medication. I had her phone at the moment and learned that she was not only seeing another man, but that she was also sharing a residence with him. In hindsight, my degree of denial was amazing, especially in light of what she was attempting to do. I also learned that she had emailed him pictures, as well as images of my child in his bed, among other awful things. When I approached her, she didn't answer right immediately, which surprised me. In the end, I had to go to the guy's house and retrieve her possessions in order to transport them back to my house. I walked with her through the arduous process of counseling and rehabilitation, which included her continuing to lie about her substance abuse. I couldn't think about anything else because my brain was so numb from the agony, and the only thing that came to me was that someone I cared about was in distress and needed my aid. In all honesty, I'm not sure how I was able to keep going. Even now, it concerns me, and I don't have confidence in her. Since then, she's fared far better. Her ability to return was aided by my ability to check her phone at any time for any reason I deemed necessary. Yet, despite this, she has managed to deceive me on several occasions about her drug use, which I only learned by coincidence. We moved about 4 to 5 minutes away from where we had been living at the beginning of the year so that she could get away from the drug environment. We had been there for a year. The fact that she no longer cleans the house and instead spends most of her time at her mother's house near where this guy used to reside has helped, but she doesn't seem to care about any of it until I bring it up in conversation. Between then and today, I have no idea if she has had any contact with any males or whether she has been involved with drugs at all since then. What is it about her that I am still in love with? I'm sorry, but I'm stumped. To a significant extent, I believe this is due to my child. Despite the fact that I still like her, she just makes me miserable and causes me to feel unlike myself when I am in her company. In my opinion, she has made a deliberate attempt to better her situation, and maybe she will continue to improve. The number of times I've threatened divorce has increased, and each time she breaks down and promises to do everything it takes to keep us together. There is continual debate, but there is no action taken. I'm a tired gent in desperate need of guidance.